The neon-drenched streets of Neo-Shanghai pulsed with artificial life as Rhiannon Pierce's cybernetic eye scanned the horizon. Rain fell in sheets, creating mirrors of light on the twisted metal and concrete that formed the megacity's skeleton. Her enhanced vision picked up movement 3 blocks ahead, something that shouldn't be there. "Control, this is Pierce," she whispered, her subvocal implant carrying the message through secure channels. "Movement detected in Sector 7, abandoned zone. Permission to investigate." Static answered her call. Rhiannon checked her systems, everything was operational, but communications were dead. That wasn't normal. Nothing about tonight felt normal. Her augmented arm hummed quietly as she drew her pulse rifle, the weapon's weight familiar and reassuring. The streets here were supposed to be empty. This sector had been evacuated months ago after the mysterious energy signatures started appearing. Scientists claimed they were harmless atmospheric anomalies. Rhiannon didn't believe in harmless anomalies. The movement flickered again, closer now. Her targeting system highlighted a shape that defied natural geometry, all angles and curves that shouldn't exist together. It pulsed with an inner light that made her cybernetics tingle. "Well," she muttered, "that's definitely not atmospheric." The object, artifact, her mind supplied, hung suspended in the air, rotating slowly. It was roughly the size of a basketball, but its surface seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. As she approached, her augmented senses detected energy patterns unlike anything in her database. A soft chime in her head warned of approaching vehicles. Rhiannon's enhanced hearing picked up the whisper of hover engines, military grade, trying to run silent. Someone else knew about this thing. She reached for the artifact, her cybernetic hand extending toward its shifting surface. The moment her fingers made contact, the world exploded into data. Information flooded her neural interface, star maps, weapon schematics, and something else. A warning. Images flashed through her mind, massive ships descending from the stars, worlds burning, civilizations falling. The Vraxians, a name she now knew, had been conducting experiments across the galaxy. Earth wasn't their first target, but they intended it to be their most successful. Rhiannon tried to pull away, but the artifact's surface had become liquid, flowing up her arm like quicksilver. Her cybernetics screamed in protest as alien code rewrote itself into her systems. Through the pain, she saw the military vehicles arriving, sleek black hovercars bearing the insignia of the Global Defense Force. The artifact's message continued to burn itself into her mind. The Vraxians had seeded worlds with their technology, waiting to see which species would survive contact. Those that did would be deemed worthy of ascension, a process that would transform them into weapons for the Vraxian fleet. Finally, the artifact released her. Rhiannon stumbled backward, her systems rebooting one by one. The GDF vehicles had landed, and soldiers were approaching with weapons drawn. But something was wrong about their movements, too precise, too synchronized. Her enhanced vision picked up subtle alterations in their armor, changes that looked eerily similar to the liquid metal of the artifact. The Vraxians hadn't just arrived. They were already here, wearing human skin like camouflage. "Stand down, Pierce," one of them called out, voice too perfect to be human. "The artifact belongs to us." Rhiannon's combat systems finished rebooting, new protocols integrating with her existing software. The artifact hadn't just given her information, it had upgraded her. Through her enhanced vision, she could now see the true forms of the creatures wearing human armor, towering, insectoid things with too many limbs. "Sorry," she said, feeling power surge through her cybernetic systems. "But I don't take orders from bugs." The fight that followed was brutal and swift. Her new upgrades gave her an edge they hadn't expected, the ability to see through their disguises and predict their movements. Pulse rifle fire lit up the rain-soaked street as Rhiannon danced between their shots, her augmented reflexes pushing past human limits. When it was over, 5 bodies lay on the ground, their human disguises flickering and failing to reveal their true forms. Rhiannon stood in the rain, the artifact's knowledge still burning in her mind. This was just the beginning. The Vraxians would send more, and Earth needed to be ready. She activated her emergency beacon, calling for real human reinforcements. As she waited, she examined her cybernetic arm. The liquid metal had changed it, leaving intricate patterns etched into the surface. She could feel new power humming through her systems, power she'd need for the war to come. The rain continued to fall, washing away evidence of the battle. But nothing could wash away the truth the artifact had shown her. Humanity wasn't alone in the universe, and their first contact had come with a price. The question now was whether that price would be Earth's survival or its destruction. Rhiannon Pierce intended to make sure it was the former, no matter what it cost her. Dr. Marcus Singh's laboratory in the depths of Neo-Shanghai's research district was a maze of holographic displays and humming equipment. He stood before the artifact Rhiannon had recovered, its liquid metal surface still shifting and pulsing with an inner light. His dark eyes reflected the strange patterns as he adjusted his scanning equipment. "Fascinating," he murmured, making another adjustment. "The energy signature is unlike anything we've encountered. It's not just technology, it's almost alive." Rhiannon watched from the doorway, her cybernetic arm still bearing the intricate patterns left by her encounter with the artifact. "Alive enough to hijack my systems and upload an alien database into my head." Marcus turned to her, his expression serious. "About that, the data you received, can you access it at will?" She nodded, stepping closer to the containment field that housed the artifact. "Some of it. Star charts, weapon specs, bits and pieces of their history. But it's like trying to read a book in a language you've just started learning. I get concepts, but the details are fuzzy." "Tell me about the Vraxians again," Marcus said, bringing up a holographic display of the alien corpses Rhiannon had left behind. Their true forms were nightmare fuel, chitinous exoskeletons merged with cybernetic enhancements, multiple limbs ending in tools that could become weapons in an instant. "They're collectors," Rhiannon said, the knowledge flowing through her enhanced mind. "They seed primitive worlds with their technology, then wait. If a species survives contact and proves worthy, they're elevated, transformed into weapons for the Vraxian fleet. And if they're not worthy, they become test subjects. The Vraxians perfect their bioweapons on the failures." Marcus swore softly, running a hand through his graying hair. "How many worlds?" "Hundreds. Maybe thousands. The data isn't clear, but Rhiannon stopped, her cybernetic eye picking up something odd in the artifact's energy pattern. "Marcus, step back." The artifact's surface had begun to ripple more violently, its glow intensifying. Warning signals flashed across Rhiannon's vision as her systems detected a massive energy spike. The containment field flickered and failed. "Get down." Rhiannon grabbed Marcus and pulled him behind a lab bench as the artifact released a pulse of energy that shattered every screen in the room. When they looked up, the artifact was projecting a massive hologram, a star map showing hundreds of worlds, each marked with a pulsing red dot. "What are we looking at?" Marcus asked, slowly standing. "Extinction events," Rhiannon said, the knowledge burning in her mind. "Each dot is a world the Vraxians deemed unworthy. And that dash," she pointed to a blinking blue dot, "is Earth." The hologram shifted, showing a massive fleet of ships moving through space. Their design was organic and terrifying, like massive insects made of metal and shadow. According to the timestamp in the corner, this wasn't a historical record. It was happening now. "They're coming," Marcus whispered. "How long do we have?" Before Rhiannon could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Her combat systems activated automatically as her enhanced senses detected multiple contacts approaching rapidly. The heavy blast doors at the entrance to the lab began to glow red, metal melting under intense heat. "We have company," she said, drawing her pulse rifle. "Looks like the advanced scouts don't want us sharing their secrets." Marcus quickly began transferring data to a secure drive. We need to get this information to the Global Defense Force. The real GDF, not the infiltrators. First we need to survive. Rhiannon's cybernetic systems hummed as combat protocols engaged. The artifact's upgrades spread through her system like liquid fire, enhancing her already formidable capabilities. Stay behind me. The doors exploded inward, and through the smoke came the Vraxian scouts. In their true forms, they were even more terrifying, 3 meters tall, their bodies a perfect fusion of biological and mechanical parts. They moved with unnatural grace, weapons extending from their limbs. The vessel has been contaminated, one of them said, its voice a harsh mechanical buzz. Purge protocol activated. Rhiannon didn't wait for them to make the first move. Her enhanced reflexes let her fire before they could react, pulse rounds tearing through alien armor. But these weren't like the infiltrators she'd fought before. These were pure combat forms, and they learned quickly. Energy beams sliced through the air, forcing her to dive for cover. Behind her, Marcus worked frantically to complete the data transfer. The artifact pulsed with increasing intensity, responding to the presence of its creators. "Any time now, Doctor," Rhiannon called out, returning fire. Her new upgrades let her predict their movement patterns, but they were too many. A blast caught her in the shoulder, searing through synthetic muscle. "Done!" Marcus shouted. "But they're blocking transmissions. We need to get this to the surface." Rhiannon's tactical systems calculated their odds, not good, but not impossible. She reached out with her cybernetic arm, connecting to the artifact's energy field. Power surged through her systems as she established a link. "Hold on to something," she warned Marcus. Then she triggered an overload. The artifact's energy exploded outward, temporarily disrupting the Vraxian scout systems. In that moment of chaos, Rhiannon grabbed both Marcus and the data drive. Her enhanced strength let her leap through the lab's reinforced window, shielding Marcus as they crashed onto a lower-level emergency platform. Above them, the laboratory erupted in flames. The artifact's destruction would slow the Vraxians down, but it wouldn't stop them. Earth needed to prepare for what was coming. "You okay?" she asked Marcus as they caught their breath on the platform. He nodded, clutching the data drive. "We need to warn them. The whole world needs to know what's coming." Rhiannon looked up at the night sky, her enhanced vision picking up strange disturbances in the upper atmosphere. The advanced scouts were just the beginning. The real invasion was about to begin. "Then let's make sure they listen," she said, helping him up. "Because if they don't, Earth won't just be another red dot on their map. It'll be their greatest victory." The underground bunker of the Resistance buzzed with nervous energy as holographic displays showed the growing atmospheric disturbances. Rhiannon stood before the assembled military leaders, her cybernetic systems projecting the data they'd recovered from the artifact. Marcus worked nearby, correlating the information with Earth's defense capabilities. "The Vraxians aren't just invaders," Rhiannon explained, her enhanced voice carrying across the room. "They're collectors, experimenters. Each world they've seeded with their technology is a test tube in a galaxy-wide experiment." The hologram shifted, showing the horrific transformation of other species. Their goal isn't just conquest. They're looking for the perfect fusion of biological and mechanical evolution. Every world that fails becomes a testing ground for their bioweapons. General Rivera, one of the few high-ranking officials they were certain wasn't compromised, leaned forward. "And the infiltrators we found? The ones disguised as humans?" "Advanced scouts," Marcus cut in, bringing up new data. "They've been here for months, maybe years, preparing Earth for the main invasion. But something went wrong with their plan." Rhiannon nodded, her cybernetic eye glowing as she accessed the alien database in her mind. "Me. When I interfaced with their artifact, I received upgrades they never intended to share. I can see through their disguises, predict their movements. I'm a variable they didn't account for." Suddenly, the bunker's alarms blared. The holographic displays flickered with interference as massive energy signatures appeared in the upper atmosphere. Through the chaos, a transmission cut through, its source unmistakably Vraxian. Humans of Earth, the voice resonated through every speaker, its tone artificially smooth. Your world has been chosen. The testing phase is complete. Prepare for ascension. The main screen showed massive ships breaking through the cloud cover, organic-looking vessels that seemed to pulse with internal light. They took position above major cities, their shadows casting darkness over millions. "They're earlier than we predicted," Marcus said, his fingers flying over holographic controls. The artifact's destruction must have accelerated their timeline. Rhiannon's combat systems registered multiple incoming threats as smaller craft began launching from the motherships. "Those aren't just transport vessels," she said, her enhanced vision analyzing their design. "They're carrying terraforming equipment. They're going to transform Earth's atmosphere." "Into what?" General Rivera demanded. The answer came in the form of green lightning that began striking the ground wherever the ships passed. Where it hit, the Earth itself began to change, becoming something alien and wrong. Plants twisted into metallic shapes, and animals caught in the energy field underwent horrific transformations. "They're not here to kill us," Rhiannon realized, the knowledge from her enhanced systems finally clicking into place. "They're here to force our evolution. To turn Earth into a forge for their weapons." Marcus brought up atmospheric readings that confirmed their worst fears. "The changes are spreading exponentially. At this rate, Earth's biosphere will be completely transformed within days. How do we stop them?" Rivera asked, watching as more ships entered the atmosphere. Rhiannon's cybernetic arm hummed as she interfaced with the bunker's systems, bringing up detailed scans of the Vraxian ships. "Their technology operates on a quantum level, using biological components as catalysts. But it's not perfect. There are vulnerabilities." She projected a new hologram, showing the strange patterns etched into her cybernetic components. "The upgrades I received, they're not just defensive systems. They're keys to their network. With enough power, I could potentially hijack their entire command structure." "That's suicide," Marcus protested, understanding what she was suggesting. "The amount of energy required would burn out your neural pathways. Even with your enhancements, the human brain isn't designed to handle that kind of load." "Maybe that's why they never expected us to try it," Rhiannon countered. "They understand technology, biology, but they don't understand human determination. Our willingness to sacrifice everything to protect what matters." The bunker shook as another wave of green lightning struck nearby. Through the reinforced walls, they could hear the sounds of the world beginning to change. Time was running out. "We need a direct connection to one of their ships," Rhiannon continued, her tactical systems already formulating a plan. "If I can interface with their network, I can trigger a cascade failure through their entire fleet." "And what happens to you?" Marcus asked quietly. Rhiannon's human eye met his, while her cybernetic one continued monitoring the invasion. "Either I survive and help rebuild, or I take them down with me. Either way, Earth has a chance." General Rivera studied her for a moment, then nodded. "What do you need?" "A way up there," she said, pointing to the largest ship hovering over Neo-Shanghai. "And enough time to make them regret underestimating humanity." As they began planning the assault, Rhiannon felt the alien upgrades pulse through her systems. The Vraxians had intended their technology to be a test, a way to judge humanity's worth. Instead, they had given her the tools to fight back. Above them, the sky continued to turn green as the invasion progressed. But for the first time since the ships appeared, there was hope. Sometimes the greatest weapons weren't the ones you built, but the ones your enemies gave you, thinking you'd never dare to use them against yourself. The stolen Vraxian shuttle shuddered as it ascended through the transformed atmosphere, green lightning crackling around its hull. In the pilot's seat, Rhiannon's cybernetic systems interfaced directly with the alien controls, her enhanced mind translating their bizarre logic into actionable commands. Marcus worked in the back, monitoring her vital signs as the alien upgrades pushed her systems to their limits. Neural load is approaching critical levels, he warned. The interface is burning through your reserves faster than we anticipated. Can't worry about that now, Rhiannon replied, her voice strained as she guided them toward the massive mothership looming above Neo-Shanghai. The vessel was a nightmare of organic technology, its surface rippling like living metal. As they approached, massive entry ports opened like wounds in its hull. "They're letting us in," Marcus observed, checking their countermeasures. "That's not good." "They think we're one of theirs," Rhiannon said, though she knew better. The Vraxians were too intelligent for such a simple deception. They were being invited into a trap. The shuttle passed through layers of biological scanning fields, each one probing deeper into their systems. Rhiannon felt the alien tech in her cybernetics respond, engaging in a complex dance of recognition protocols. Finally, they emerged into a vast landing bay that defied human architecture. "Remember the plan," Rhiannon said as they touched down. "Get to the central processing node, upload the virus, and dash. And get out before your neural interface overloads," Marcus finished. "Though I still think this is insane." Rhiannon stood, checking her weapons even though she knew they'd be nearly useless against what awaited them. Insanity might be our only advantage. They can predict logic, but they can't predict human desperation. The shuttle's door opened to reveal a reception committee, a dozen Vraxian warriors in their true forms, their weapon limbs already deployed. Behind them stood a taller figure, different from the others. Where they were built for combat, this one's form suggested command, authority. "Welcome, Anomaly," the leader spoke, its voice a symphony of harmonics that made Marcus wince. "We have been expecting you." Rhiannon stepped forward, her cybernetic eye scanning their defenses. "You know why I'm here?" "Of course. You believe you can use our own technology against us. A fascinating hypothesis, born from your species' remarkable capacity for self-deception." The leader moved closer, its form shifting like liquid metal. "But we have had eons to perfect our art. Did you think we wouldn't protect against such obvious strategies?" Suddenly, Rhiannon's cybernetic systems screamed in warning. The alien upgrades in her system began to burn, trying to tear themselves free. She fell to one knee, gritting her teeth against the pain. "Your enhancement was not a mistake," the leader continued. "It was a test. One final experiment to prove our hypothesis about human adaptability. And you, Rhiannon Pierce, have exceeded all expectations." Marcus moved to help her, but the Vraxian warriors blocked his path. Rhiannon forced herself to stand, fighting against the agony as her systems tried to tear themselves apart. "You're right," she managed, her voice raw. "I am an experiment. But not yours." With tremendous effort, she activated the command code she and Marcus had spent hours programming. Not to attack the Vraxian network, they had known that would be impossible. Instead, she attacked herself. The alien upgrades in her system went into overdrive, generating energy levels that should have been fatal. But Rhiannon had one advantage the Vraxians hadn't counted on: her original cybernetics hadn't been designed by them. "What are you doing?" the leader demanded, its harmonious voice showing the first traces of concern. "Learning," Rhiannon gasped. The energy building in her systems reached critical levels. "Humans don't just adapt. We evolve." The explosion of power that followed was unlike anything in human or Vraxian experience. Rhiannon became a conduit for pure energy, her human and cybernetic components working in perfect harmony to channel forces that should have destroyed her. The Vraxian warriors closest to her began to malfunction, their systems overwhelmed by the feedback. The leader stepped back, its liquid metal form rippling with what might have been fear. "Marcus, now!" Rhiannon shouted through the maelstrom. While the Vraxians were distracted, Marcus sprinted toward the central node, carrying a device they had built using salvaged alien tech. Not a virus, but something far simpler, a key to unlock every cage the Vraxians had built. Impossible, the leader declared as its warriors began to fall. This defies all known parameters. Rhiannon laughed despite the pain, her human eye glowing as bright as her cybernetic one. That's humanity's greatest weapon. We don't care about your parameters. As Marcus reached the node, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The trap the Vraxians had set was turning against them, their own technology becoming a liability in the face of human ingenuity. But victory would come at a price. Rhiannon could feel her systems failing, the power surge destroying her from the inside out. Yet she maintained the channel, buying time for Marcus to complete their real mission. The leader seemed to understand too late. You never intended to survive this. No, Rhiannon agreed as emergency containment fields began activating throughout the ship. I intended to prove a point. Above them, the ship's organic architecture began to pulse with warning lights. The final confrontation was approaching, but the Vraxians were about to learn that their greatest mistake hadn't been underestimating human technology. They had underestimated human sacrifice. Emergency lights pulsed through the Vraxian mothership's organic corridors as chaos erupted across all decks. Marcus's device had done more than just interface with their systems, it had awakened something the Vraxians had never expected to face: choice. Rhiannon stood at the center of the storm, her body a conduit for energies that defied both human and alien understanding. Through her enhanced senses, she could feel the ship's biomechanical systems responding to her presence, recognizing something both familiar and frighteningly new. What have you done? The Vraxian leader demanded, its harmonious voice distorting with what could only be described as panic. Marcus emerged from the central node, his face illuminated by the cascading lights. We didn't just study your technology, he said, pride evident in his voice. We studied your history. Every world you've seeded, every species you've tested, they all had one thing in common. They were alone, Rhiannon finished, her voice carrying despite the strain on her systems. Isolated. But humanity? We've spent our entire history telling stories about meeting aliens. We've imagined this moment in 1,000 different ways. And in every story, we learned one truth. The ship shuddered as more systems came online, responding to new commands that bypassed the Vraxian hierarchy. Throughout the vessel, the merged biological and mechanical components began to evolve, changing in ways their creators had never intended. The real test wasn't your technology, Marcus continued. It was imagination. The ability to see beyond what exists to what could be. Your mistake was thinking that seeding Earth with your tech would force us to evolve according to your plan. Rhiannon's human eye met the leader's gaze as her cybernetic one transmitted commands through the ship's network. Instead, we made your technology evolve to match us. The leader's liquid metal form rippled with increasing agitation as reports flooded in from across the fleet. On every ship, in every system, the careful balance of control was shifting. The technology they had used to transform countless worlds was transforming itself, guided by the unpredictable creativity of human consciousness. This is impossible, the leader insisted, though its voice carried less conviction. Our systems are perfect. Our evolution is guided by pure logic. That's exactly why you failed, Rhiannon said, even as warnings flashed across her vision. Her human components were failing, the power surge pushing her beyond sustainable limits. Logic alone can't create. It can only follow existing patterns. But humanity? We break patterns. We imagine impossible things. And sometimes, we make them real. Through the ship's viewing ports, they could see the green lightning that had been transforming Earth's atmosphere beginning to change color. The Vraxian bioweapons were being rewritten at the molecular level, their very nature shifting to reflect something new, a harmony between human ingenuity and alien potential. You wanted to test our worth? Rhiannon challenged, taking a step toward the leader despite her failing systems. Here's your result. We don't just adapt to change, we direct it. We don't just survive evolution, we choose its path. The leaders' forum began to lose cohesion as the ship's systems recognized new authorities. You've doomed yourselves, it warned. Without our guidance, the technology will run wild. Your world will still be transformed. Marcus smiled, checking readings on his device. Yes, it will. But not by your rules. By ours. Rhiannon felt her consciousness expanding through the ship's network, touching minds and machines across the fleet. The alien upgrades in her system were burning out, taking her original cybernetics with them. But in their destruction, they were creating something unprecedented, a bridge between human consciousness and alien technology. I understand now, she said, her voice carrying both pain and wonder. Your whole species has been running on autopilot, following patterns established eons ago. You forgot how to dream. How to imagine new possibilities. The leader's form destabilized further as its connection to the fleet's systems was severed. What are you? It asked, its harmonious voice reduced to a whisper. We're human, Rhiannon answered simply. And we're awake. The surge of power reached its peak. Throughout the fleet, ships began to transform, their organic technology responding to new imperatives written in the language of human creativity. The green lightning above Earth turned to gold, rewriting the changes the Vraxians had initiated into something uniquely terrestrial. As her systems began to shut down, Rhiannon saw through the ship's sensors that the transformation was spreading. Not just through Earth's atmosphere, but through the entire Vraxian fleet. They had created something that would change both species forever, not through force, but through possibility. Marcus, she managed, her human voice barely a whisper. Did we do it? He caught her as she fell, the last of her energy spent in the final transmission. We did more than that, he said, watching as the Vraxian leader dissolved into components that would seed a new kind of evolution. We showed them what they'd forgotten. That the greatest test of any species isn't its ability to conquer or control. It's the ability to imagine something better, Rhiannon finished, her systems shutting down one by one. But as darkness took her, she smiled. Because she knew that when she woke up, if she woke up, the world would be different. Not because aliens had forced change upon humanity, but because humanity had shown the aliens how to change themselves. Above Earth, the transformed fleet hung in orbit like a string of newborn stars, their light no longer green but golden. The age of testing was over. The age of creation had begun.